Why Hard Work is Overrated by Alfie Brown. Narrated by Christopher Tester. Introduction. Success isn't earned. It's confidently mispronounced into existence. Plato. Probably. Look, I know what they told you. Work hard and you'll be successful. That's the biggest scam since low-fat yogurt. Hard work is like trying to push a revolving door. It looks like you're going somewhere, but really you're just exhausting yourself in public while strangers judge you. I've met billionaires who think ROI stands for ravioli on ice, and guys with 3 PhDs who can solve quantum mechanics equations but still struggle to remember their Netflix password. The whole system is built to make you believe that effort equals reward. But that's just so you don't start questioning why the CEO's nephew, who once microwaved a metal fork at an office party, is somehow making 6 figures, while you're out here scheduling brainstorming meetings with people who respond to every idea with, "Let's circle back." The truth, success isn't about grinding. It's not about hustling. It's not about waking up at 4 a.m. to do cold plunges and scream affirmations into a mirror like you're summoning the ancient spirits of productivity. No, my friend, success is about deception. It's about smoke and mirrors. It's about walking into a room like you own the place, even if you just wandered in looking for free snacks. See, the biggest mistake people make is thinking the world is a meritocracy, when in reality, it's a very elaborate confidence contest where the judges are half asleep. The ones at the top, well, they aren't necessarily the best. They're just the loudest, or the most delusional, or the kind of people who can say, "I'm not an expert, but," and somehow get paid £30,000 to a keynote conference about blockchain, even though they still don't know what an NFT actually is. This isn't one of those work smarter, not harder books. That phrase still has the word work in it, which, frankly, feels offensive. This is about working minimally while maximizing your impact. This is about finding the shortest possible route to success, the business equivalent of using Mario Kart shortcuts while everyone else is still taking the scenic route. This book is your backdoor into the system, the unspoken rulebook of people who get ahead without actually being good at anything. If you do this right, you won't just succeed. You'll succeed while everyone else is still out here grinding their souls into dust, sacrificing their weekends and pretending to enjoy work culture just so they don't feel the void creeping in. You'll be out there making power moves based entirely on vibes, giving TED Talks about leadership despite the fact that your greatest personal achievement is remembering your PayPal login on the first try. Confidence is a currency. Here's the thing. People don't know what they're doing. That includes your boss, your co-workers, your financial advisor, and honestly, probably even the government. The world runs on perceived competence, not actual competence. That's why a guy who once stapled his own tie to a desk during a Zoom call is now a senior VP, and why I once got hired as a digital transformation consultant, despite the fact that, at the time, I thought the cloud was just a metaphor. The trick: look like you belong. Sound like you know what you're talking about, and never, ever hesitate. People trust confidence more than they trust credentials. That's how my Uncle Gary once convinced a gas station full of people that he was a regional fire inspector, despite the fact that he was wearing a Hawaiian shirt and holding a Red Bull. The confidence illusion. Confidence is like a fake Rolex. If you wear it with enough conviction, people will assume it's real. The only time you get caught is if you hesitate. Ever watch a toddler tell a blatant lie? They do it with full chest. "No, I didn't eat the cookies." Meanwhile, their entire face is covered in chocolate and their pockets are filled with cookie crumbs. But they say it like they believe it, and for a second, you doubt your own reality. That's the kind of energy you need to bring into the business world. Most of the top executives aren't geniuses. They just talk like they're the only ones in the room who have ever read a book. They use words like synergy and scalability like they have some sort of divine insight into the economy, when in reality they just have good hair and know how to say, "That's a great question," without ever answering it. Want to win at life? Act like you have a winning hand, even if you're holding 2 expired library cards and a Domino's coupon. I once had a buddy named Mitch. Mitch had 0 marketable skills. None. His only real talent was doing a passable impression of Matthew McConaughey and drinking a truly astonishing amount of Red Bull without dying. Yet, somehow, Mitch got hired as a corporate consultant for a major logistics company. How? Confidence. And drugs. He walked into that interview with an untucked dress shirt and the energy of a man who had just sold his first NFT. They asked if he had experience in logistics, and this man, without blinking, said, "I practically invented logistics." Now, in reality, the closest Mitch had ever been to logistics was getting his Uber Eats delivery faster by texting the driver, "I love you." But he said it with conviction. A week later, he was making 6 figures telling actual professionals how to do their jobs, despite the fact that he once accidentally set his microwave on fire making cup noodles. How to sound like you know everything when you know nothing. The secret to being taken seriously isn't knowledge, it's linguistic gymnastics. Ever been in a meeting where someone makes a completely ridiculous statement with total conviction and suddenly everyone just nods and writes it down like it's gospel? That's the power of saying absolutely nothing but making it sound profound. Here's a cheat sheet of phrases to say in meetings when you have no clue what's going on. We need to not just think outside the box, but rethink the very existence of the box itself. It's not about what we do, it's about what we enable. The real question isn't how can we improve, but how can we be the improvement? We're not here to follow trends, we're here to be the reason trends exist. None of these sentences mean anything, but they sound like they belong on a TED Talk. 1. Business is just legal lying. Master it. I refuse to join any club that would have me as a member. Groucho Marx. Business isn't about what you do. It's about how you make people feel. And if you think success comes from hard work, innovation, or having the best product, then my friend, you've already lost. The world's biggest companies weren't built on quality. They were built on confidence, illusion, and the ability to make people believe they need something they probably don't. Some of the wealthiest people on Earth got there not by inventing something new, but by convincing the masses that their slightly repackaged bullshit was revolutionary. Take bottled water, for example. A liquid that literally falls from the fucking sky for free. Someone, somewhere, woke up one morning and thought, what if I convince people that tap water is dangerous, put this free liquid in a plastic bottle, slapped a picture of a mountain on the label, and charged them £2 a pop? And guess what? It worked. Not because of the water, but because of the idea. The illusion of purity. This subtle suggestion that if you drink their branded water instead of whatever sad tap water peasants consume, you are better. Congratulations, you've been conned, and you probably enjoyed it. The millionaire who sold you broken jeans. The first millionaire I ever met wasn't some tech genius who built a world-changing app. No, it was a crackhead bloke who made a fortune selling pre-distressed jeans, literally dragging denim behind his car for 10 miles, then slapping on a £300 price tag. And people went mad for them. Not because they were good jeans, but because they came with a story. The illusion that they had character, that they weren't just trousers, but a lifestyle choice. If your legs weren't wrapped in jeans that looked like they had survived a minor explosion, were you even cool? That's business in a nutshell. Not selling products, but selling meaning. Selling status. Selling the feeling of being better than other people. The guy who built a business on lies. Then there was this guy I knew who claimed he owned a luxury car rental business. In reality, his fleet consisted of one borrowed car from a mate at a dealership, which he used for photo shoots. He posted enough flashy content, networked with the right people, and within months he had attracted investors. By the time anyone realized he had zero actual inventory, he had already built a real business, off the illusion that he had one. Man didn't even own a bicycle when he started. What's the lesson here? Simple. You don't need the best product. You don't even need a product. You just need to convince people that what you have is better than what they have. Tesla doesn't sell cars, mate. They sell the idea of intelligence, of superiority, of being part of some enlightened tech cult that's saving the world while silently judging people who still drive petrol cars. So, forget about being the best. Just look like the best. Convince people that your thing is the thing they can't live without. The rest will follow. 2. The customer isn't always right. Sometimes they're just stupid. Never put off till tomorrow what you can do the day after tomorrow just as well. Mark Twain. For decades, businesses have been peddling the biggest lie in history. The customer is always right. No, they're not. In fact, a shocking percentage of customers are walking, talking tornadoes of bad decisions and entitlement. If customers were always right, we wouldn't have warning labels on hairdryers telling people not to use them in the bath. But here we are, with businesses bending over backwards for every Karen and Kevin who think a 10% discount is a human right and that leaving a 1-star review is the digital equivalent of launching a nuclear attack. I once worked in a shop as a kid where a bloke tried to return a half-eaten sandwich because he changed his mind halfway through. He even had the nerve to ask for a refund. "Sir, I can't resell half a sandwich," I told him. He just stared at me like I was the idiot. That's the level of delusion we're dealing with. But somehow, I was the unreasonable one. It's time to wake up. The customer isn't always right, but the right customers, those are the ones you should care about. The people you should never listen to. Ever worked in customer service? Then you already know. There are certain types of customers who should have their opinions legally disregarded. 1. The serial complainer. This is the person who has never been satisfied with anything in their life. If you gave them a free private jet, they'd complain the champagne was too bubbly. In the same shop as a kid, I once had a guy demand a refund for a pizza he had already eaten. His complaint? It wasn't good enough to justify the calories. My dude, you ate the entire thing. If it was that bad, you could have stopped at bite 3 instead of inhaling the whole thing like a fucking Dyson vacuum. They don't actually want a solution, they just want to feel powerful. These are the people who call customer service just to have a word and whose life goal is to emotionally break a minimum wage employee before breakfast. Best strategy? Ignore them. Let them scream into the void. 2. The discount goblin. This is the customer who will haggle over a £5 purchase like they're negotiating world peace. They act like your pricing is a personal insult when really they just don't want to pay for anything, ever. They're the ones sending emails that start with, "Hey, can you do this for exposure?" Spoiler alert. Exposure doesn't pay rent. If it did, influencers would be billionaires. Or they'll complain that your product costs too much, yet somehow they can justify spending £8 a day on overpriced oat milk lattes from a cafe that calls itself an artisan bean experience. Best strategy? Fire them as a customer. Their loyalty is worthless because they'll leave the second someone else offers a 50p discount. 3. The 1-star assassin. This is the lunatic who will leave a scathing online review because of something completely unrelated to your product. Food was delicious, service was great, but my girlfriend broke up with me while we were eating. 1 star. Ordered a phone case, but the postman was rude when he delivered it. 1 star. I once saw a review for a hotel that said, "Lovely rooms, great service, but I stubbed my toe on the nightstand. Ruined my trip." 1 star. Sir, you lost a fight with furniture. That's a you problem. Best strategy? Laugh at them. Maybe even frame the review. 4. The "I showed this to my husband" genius. Oh, this one is my favourite, and a classic. You deliver work, maybe a copywriting project, a logo, a marketing strategy, and they come back with, "I showed this to my husband, and he thought it might be better this way." Oh, your husband's a marketer, a creative director, a branding expert. No, he's a fucking plumber, you dick. Brilliant. Let me just take marketing advice from a guy who spends his day elbow deep in U-bends. That makes total sense. I'll hire him to fix my boiler and then ask my barber if it looks right, you moron. Most businesses operate like desperate exes, chasing, begging, and accommodating every single person who shows interest. That's a recipe for disaster. You do not have to accept every customer. You do not have to put up with idiots. And you definitely do not have to lower your standards to keep people happy. Instead, do this. Attract the right customers. Speak directly to the people who actually value your work. Everyone else, let them go ruin someone else's day. Set firm boundaries. If a customer crosses the line, show them the door. A bad customer is like a cockroach. If you let one in, suddenly there's 20 of them, and they all want refunds. Charge what you're worth. People who respect your pricing will pay it. The ones who whine about it would have been your worst clients anyway. Businesses that have made billions by not giving a damn. Some of the most successful companies in the world are built on the exact opposite of "the customer is always right." Apple. Pay us more for less. Apple releases the same phone every year, removes basic features, and charges even more for it. And people still line up to buy it. They don't care if you're mad about losing the headphone jack. They don't care that your charger from 2015 doesn't fit the new model. Why? Because Apple understands something most businesses don't. You set the rules, not the customer. IKEA. Good luck assembling this, loser. IKEA literally sells you homework. They make you wander around a massive store like you're in some kind of capitalist maze, force you to lug your own flat-pack furniture to the checkout, and then make you build it yourself with instructions that look like they were drawn by a toddler with a crayon. Customers should hate this. But do they? Nope. IKEA trains you to accept inconvenience, and you thank them for it. Supreme, the brand that sells you scarcity. Supreme sells plain t-shirts for hundreds of pounds. The only reason people buy them? Because Supreme tells them they can't have them. They create artificial scarcity, make customers fight each other for stock, and then watch as their resale value skyrockets. Supreme doesn't bend over backwards for customers. If anything, they make customers bend over backwards for them. And it works. If your business is spending all its time catering to the worst customers, you're wasting energy on the wrong people. The most successful brands don't beg for approval. They set their own terms and let the right customers come to them. So, next time you catch yourself bending over backwards for someone who clearly doesn't respect your business, ask yourself, would Apple give this person a refund? Would IKEA apologize for their confusing instructions? Would Supreme let them haggle on price? No? Then don't be a dummy. Neither should you. 3. Your job isn't to be liked, it's to be respected. I don't want to achieve immortality through my work. I want to achieve it through not dying. Woody Allen. Most people spend their entire lives auditioning for the approval of others like they're contestants on some invisible reality show where the grand prize is absolutely nothing. They wake up, brush their teeth. Hopefully, some of you are out here rolling the dice, and then spend the rest of the day contorting themselves into likable shapes for people who wouldn't even attend their funeral if it rained that day. They agree with opinions they don't believe in. They say, "Yeah, mate, let's definitely catch up soon," knowing full well that if they ever actually saw that person in public, they'd duck behind a supermarket shelf like they were being hunted for sport. They smile too much. They people-please themselves into irrelevance. And worst of all, they think this is the way to get ahead in business. It isn't. The moment you realize that being liked is a luxury, but being respected is a necessity, you'll start playing the game like a pro. Respect will open doors that being liked never could. Respect gets you opportunities, influence, and most importantly, money. Because here's the truth. People will happily buy from someone they dislike as long as they respect them. But they won't buy a damn thing from someone they think is weak, desperate, or nice. Want proof? Take Jeff Bezos. The man looks like a freshly polished egg with vengeance issues. But do you think he sits around wondering if people like him? Do you think he logs onto Twitter at night and sees Amazon exploits workers and thinks, "Oh no, what if they don't invite me to brunch?" Absolutely not. Because he knows that when those same people need a last-minute gift, a pack of batteries, or some niche gadget they absolutely don't need but convince themselves was essential at 2 a.m., guess where they're going? Amazon. Bezos doesn't need your affection. He needs your addiction. That's business. You don't have to be loved, you just have to be unavoidable. Exhibit B. Steve Jobs, the tyrant in a turtleneck. Or take Steve Jobs. By all accounts, the man had the charisma of an unplugged fridge. He wasn't just not nice, he was actively unpleasant. He fired people so casually you think he was deleting spam emails. He made employees cry at meetings like it was a team-building exercise. He was a walking HR violation with a dream. But did people respect him? Absolutely. Because when Jobs spoke, you listened. Why? Because you knew he was right. He wasn't selling gadgets, he was selling magic. And you were either with him or you were irrelevant. Meanwhile, the guy who tries to be everyone's best mate, he's still sitting in a local cafe telling people, "I've got this idea for an app," while drinking his fourth latte and never launching a damn thing. Harsh truth. Being liked is not a business model. Being respected, that'll make you unstoppable. The nice guy trap. How being likable keeps you broke. Look, I get it. You were raised to be polite. Your mum told you to say please and thank you. But what she didn't tell you is that being too nice makes you invisible. Nice guys finish last because they never actually start the race. They're too busy asking for permission. They're too worried about not offending anyone to make an impact. Meanwhile, the person who demands respect is out there closing deals, winning contracts, and building empires while you're sat there wondering if it's the right time to send that follow-up email. Let me put it another way. Nice guy. I don't want to seem pushy. Respected business person. Send the damn invoice. Nice guy. I hope this price is okay for you. Respected business person. That's the rate. Take it or leave it. Nice guy. I just feel bad charging that much. Respected business person. I charge this much because I'm the best. Pay up or go buy from some amateur. See the difference. A real-life example. The construction tyrant. I once knew a bloke who ran a construction company. The kind of man who probably drank cement as a child. He looked like he could knock out a bear with one punch. His employees didn't like him, they feared him. He gave instructions like he was preparing troops for battle. If you showed up late, you might as well have moved to another country. But guess what? He paid well. He got the job done. His buildings didn't fall down, a true rarity these days. And when rival companies tried to undercut him, they backed off because they respected him too much to cross him. Not because he was their friend, not because they liked his vibes, because they knew he was a savage, and if you messed with him, you lost. That's what respect buys you. It buys you power. How to get more respect in business without being an actual psycho. Now, before you take this the wrong way, no, I'm not telling you to be an arsehole. You don't need to scream at your employees, fire people for sport, or stare into the mirror at night whispering, "I am inevitable." You just need to stop apologizing for existing. You have a business? Good. Charge your worth. Speak with confidence. Own it. Set boundaries. Clients will push you around if you let them. The first time someone tries to haggle your price, double it out of principle. Be the best at what you do. If you're average, you have to be likable. But if you're the best, people will work with you no matter what. Understand that it's better to be respected than liked. Respect lasts, likability is fickle. You could be the nicest person in the world, but if people don't take you seriously, you'll still be skinned. If you want to succeed, stop trying to be everyone's best mate. People will like you for free, but respect has to be earned. And the way you earn it, be undeniable. Get so damn good at what you do that people don't have a choice but to acknowledge you. Your business isn't here to make people happy. It's here to make them need you. And once they need you, it doesn't matter if they like you or not. You've already won. 4. If you're not selling, you don't have a business. You have a hobby. Before you criticize someone, walk a mile in their shoes. That way, you'll be a mile away and you'll have their shoes. Jack Handy. A lot of people think they run a business when, in reality, all they have is a very expensive hobby. You know the type. The guy who spends 6 months designing a logo before he's made a single sale. The woman who launches a brand and immediately spends 3 weeks picking out the perfect font. The bloke who refuses to sell anything until his website has just the right shade of blue, as if that's the thing stopping him from making money. These people love to play business. They get the office plants, the custom email signature, the fancy stationery. But if you ask them how much money they made last month, they suddenly start talking about brand positioning and long-term vision. If you're not selling, you don't have a business. You have an expensive arts and crafts project. The biggest lie, I'm just perfecting it before I launch. People who don't sell love to tell themselves they're just perfecting it before they release it to the world. They act like they're some kind of genius craftsman, meticulously refining their product like it's the Mona Lisa. Meanwhile, some random 17-year-old on TikTok has started selling carrot peelers out of his mum's garage and is making 6 figures a month. Because that's the difference. The successful people, they sell first and figure out the rest later. The perfectionists, they spend so long tweaking their vision that by the time they finally launch, nobody cares anymore. If Apple waited until their products were perfect before releasing them, we'd still be using carrier pigeons. Instead, they launch half-finished products, let people beta test them in real time, then release an update every 3 weeks. That's how you play the game. Make money now, improve later. I once met a guy who called himself an entrepreneur. He had a website, a logo, a podcast, and even business cards, which should have been the first red flag because nobody under 85 carries business cards. He had everything. Except customers. Every time I asked him what he was selling, he'd start talking about building a brand, as if brand awareness is something you can deposit at the bank. Mate, you don't have a brand. You have an Instagram page with 300 followers and a Canva addiction. This bloke spent 2 years perfecting his business. You know what happened? Someone else launched the exact same thing while he was still tinkering with his website. And they made a killing. Meanwhile, he was left holding a pile of unpaid invoices from his web designer. Selling isn't scary. Being broke is. You know why most people don't sell. Fear. They're scared of rejection. Scared people won't buy. Scared they'll launch something and hear nothing but crickets. So instead of taking that risk, they procrastinate professionally. They tweak their website for 6 months. They redesign their logo for the 5th time. They spend a week deciding if their email font should be Arial or Helvetica. You know what's actually scary? Being broke. Being 40 years old and having to borrow money from your parents because you spent your prime years perfecting your business plan instead of actually selling something. At some point, you have to put the product out there and ask for money. That's business. Selling is just talking to people with a purpose. Most people overcomplicate sales like they're trying to crack the Da Vinci Code. But selling is just talking to people, figuring out what they want, and then making them an offer. You do it every single day without realizing. Ever convinced a mate to watch a TV show you love? That's sales. Ever hyped up a restaurant to someone until they agree to go? That's sales. Ever sweet-talked your way into getting something for free? That's sales. The only difference is that in business, you're doing it for money instead of validation. If the idea of selling makes you uncomfortable, it's because you're thinking about it in the wrong way. Bad salesmen feel like beggars. Great salesmen feel like problem solvers. Bad salesman, please buy this from me. Good salesman, here's something that will solve your problem. See the difference? One is desperate, the other is valuable. You're not bothering people by selling. You're offering them something that will improve their life. Unless, of course, you're selling something useless, like one of those motivational planners that influencers push on Instagram. In that case, yes, you're bothering people. Stop that. Your first sale is the scariest. It's like jumping into cold water. You'll hesitate, you'll overthink, but once you finally do it, you'll realize it's not that deep. Once you start selling, you stop being precious about your product. You start realizing that people don't care if your logo is a little off-center. They just care about what's in it for them. I once knew a guy who sold handmade wooden spoons online. His first sale took 3 months. His second sale took a week. By the end of the year, he was making more money than his office job. Not because he had the best spoons in the world, but because he actually put them out there and started selling. The golden rule: sell first, fix later. Stop waiting for things to be perfect. Nothing is ever perfect. If you've got something valuable, put a price tag on it and start selling now. Don't have a website? Who cares? Use social media. Don't have a fancy business card? Good, you're not 80 years old. Don't have the perfect product yet? Launch it anyway. Your customers will tell you what to improve. Money doesn't come from good intentions. At the end of the day, nobody cares how passionate you are, how much effort you've put in, or how long you've been planning to start your business. Money doesn't come from good intentions, it comes from sales. So, if you're not selling, you're not a business owner. You're just a very dedicated hobbyist with an expensive dream. Start selling now. The rest will sort itself out. 5. The LinkedIn Guru to Bankrupt Pipeline. Don't fall for the scam. I have nothing to declare except my genius. Oscar Wilde. If you've spent more than 10 minutes on LinkedIn, you've probably encountered a certain type of creature. The LinkedIn Guru. These people show up on your feed like a cult in a business suit, posting things like, I just closed a 6-figure deal while sipping matcha in Bali. Want to learn how? Like this post, and I'll tell you more. This is your reminder that rich people don't work hard, they work smart. Stop grinding and start making passive income. I got fired 2 years ago. Now I run a 7-figure business. Here's how you can too. And before you know it, your entire feed is filled with these walking PowerPoint slides. People who act like they cracked the code to life, but in reality couldn't afford an Uber if their life depended on it. They have one goal: to convince you that you're failing and that only they can help. For a price, of course. And here's the brutal truth. 90% of these people are full of it. Vanity metrics equals broke business. The first red flag. They talk about their follower count like it's a financial statement. I hit 50k followers today. Over 100,000 people in my network. Who wants to connect? My post got 1 million views. Proof that engagement equals success. Here's the thing. Followers don't equal revenue. You can have 1 million followers and still be skint. You know who else has millions of followers? The guy who reviews chicken nuggets on TikTok. You think he's getting business deals? The LinkedIn gurus want you to believe that likes and comments equals money in the bank. But if you actually dig into their businesses, you'll find that most of them are built on sand. Try finding their clients. You won't. Here's a fun game. 1. Go to one of these gurus' profiles. 2. Look at their claims. 3. Try to find a single real client who isn't another LinkedIn guru. Because they don't have clients. They have a high churn cycle of desperate people who buy into the hype, get nothing of value, and then quietly disappear. Their entire business model relies on constantly finding new suckers before the old ones realize they've been scammed. It's a Ponzi scheme for insecure entrepreneurs. You know how real businesses work? They keep clients. A good accountant has clients for years. A great marketing agency gets repeat business. A legit consultant doesn't have to sell a £27 mindset course to survive. Meanwhile, these gurus are perpetually launching new offers because their last batch of clients are now either broke or suing them. The LinkedIn engagement scam. The game is rigged. Ever noticed how these people always have thousands of likes? Always. Even when their post is just something bland like, mindset is everything, be consistent. That's because they're gaming the system. Here's a little trick called engagement pods. A group of these gurus will form a secret club. They agree to like and comment on each other's posts every single day. This tricks the algorithm into thinking they're wildly popular, pushing their nonsense to real people like you. Eventually, they trick clients into thinking they're credible because they appear successful. In reality, they're all faking it for each other. It's like watching a group of kids playing shop, pretending to sell things to each other, then acting like they're all millionaires. Meanwhile, actual business owners, the ones making real money, are too busy running their companies to bother with this nonsense. Yes, LinkedIn is useful, but not like this. Now, before you think I'm saying, delete LinkedIn and go live in the woods, let me be clear. LinkedIn is important. It's a great place to build credibility, network, and even find opportunities. But you don't need to be a content-creating, motivational, quote-spewing weirdo to make money. The richest people on LinkedIn barely post. The people actually making millions? They don't have time to spend their entire day writing fake rags-to-riches stories for engagement. They use LinkedIn to connect with the right people, share useful insights, not just vague hustle harder nonsense, close real deals, then get back to work. That's it. No cringe personal brand, no fake guru energy, no photos of them pretending to be sad in an airport terminal with some nonsense about resilience. If you want to succeed in business, stop chasing social media fame. The richest people in the world built their fortunes without posting 5 times a day, bragging about their follower count, selling a course on how to scale to 7 figures. Instead, they did something revolutionary. They got really good at something. They built a valuable business. They made money without trying to trick people. Shocking, right? There are plenty of millionaires out there who don't even have a LinkedIn account. Because guess what? You don't need one. Can it help? Sure. But it's not the business. It's just a tool. At the end of the day, these gurus are just modern-day snake oil salesmen. They've taken the old-school get-rich-quick scams and repackaged them for LinkedIn and Instagram. Instead of selling magic weight loss pills, they sell mindset courses. Instead of selling door-to-door pyramid schemes, they sell coaching programs. Instead of promising passive income from flipping houses, they promise passive income from posting LinkedIn carousels. It's the same scam, just in a new format. The truth is, getting rich is slow. It takes work, skill, and patience. It takes real expertise, not just pretending you're successful online. So next time you see some self-proclaimed LinkedIn millionaire flexing his engagement numbers, ask yourself, if he's so rich, why is he trying so hard to sell you a course? If his business is booming, why does he spend 10 hours a day posting on LinkedIn? If he's a real CEO, where are his actual clients? Answer: they don't exist. The money they flash, it's loaned. The lifestyle they flex, it's rented. The business they claim to have, it's a pyramid scheme. Don't fall for it. Want real success? Get good at something. Sell real value. Build something that lasts. The LinkedIn gurus will be broke in 2 years. You won't. 6. Media features are bought, not earned. Stop chasing vanity press. If at first you don't succeed, then skydiving definitely isn't for you. Stephen Wright. We've all seen them, the self-proclaimed business gurus with their LinkedIn banners screaming, as seen in Forbes, Business Insider, and Entrepreneur. They use it like a badge of honor, a digital knighthood, proof that they have arrived. And I hate to break it to you, but 99% of the time, they bought that feature. I know this because I'm one of the people they pay to get them in. Most people think the media is a meritocracy, that journalists are tirelessly scanning the earth for the next Steve Jobs, that if you work hard enough, one day a serious-looking reporter will show up at your office, notebook in hand, and say, "Sir, the world needs to know about your mid-tier digital marketing agency." That is not how it works. The modern media industry isn't a temple where the best and brightest get anointed. It's a business. And like any business, it needs to make money. Which is why getting featured in a big-name publication is more about who you pay than what you've done. The as seen in scam. Why everyone's a Forbes entrepreneur now. Here's a simple test. Next time you see someone flexing an as seen in badge, do a little research. Try to find the actual article. Read it. 9 times out of 10, you'll notice something odd. It's a listicle. 10 entrepreneurs to watch this year, all of whom, coincidentally, just happen to pay for placement. It's not actually about them. It's some fluff piece where their name is casually dropped in the middle. It's published on some sketchy-sounding sub-site of a major publication, Forbes Council's Entrepreneur Leadership Network, etc., which is just a glorified pay-to-play scheme. And yet, these people slap the Forbes logo on everything like they just won the Pulitzer Prize. Because that's all they wanted, the badge. They don't care that nobody actually read the article. They don't care that it didn't bring them a single new customer. They just want the illusion of credibility. And the best part, it works. Meet Dave, the man who spent $10,000 to be in Forbes and made £0. I once had a client, let's call him Dave. Dave was obsessed with getting featured in the media. He ran a completely average business, but he was convinced that if he could just put as seen in Forbes on his website, he'd unlock some secret level of success. So Dave came to me and said, "Mate, I don't care what it costs, get me in Forbes." I told him, "All right, but just so you know, it's not free, and it won't make you a millionaire overnight." Did he listen? Absolutely not. What happened next? He handed over 10K and got his little "as seen him" badge. He posted it everywhere. He put it in his email signature. He printed it on his business cards, which, as we've already established, is a red flag. He even tried to sneak it into conversation. "Yeah, mate, I was just featured in Forbes." What he didn't realize, nobody cared. 2 months later, he came back to me, angry. "I spent 10 grand and I haven't made a single sale from it." To which I responded, "You paid for validation, you bellend, not marketing." Because here's the thing, media features don't automatically bring in money. They bring credibility, not customers. And if your business was rubbish before Forbes, it's still rubbish after Forbes. You can be a millionaire without ever being in the media. Want to know something funny? Some of the richest people in the world have never been featured anywhere. You think the bloke who owns your local construction empire is out here paying for fake media features? No, he's too busy running a real business that actually makes money. You can build a 7-figure business without a single press mention. Meanwhile, you've got people who've been in every media outlet but still can't afford a decent laptop charger. I know, because I see their bank accounts. The secret: the media is a business, not a reward system. Journalism is not a charity, it's a business. That's why so many media outlets have collaborations where, surprise, surprise, you can pay to be featured. And let me tell you, the lower the barrier, the dodgier the site. Pay £100, you'll get featured on something like Entrepreneur Digest Global Online Weekly, which sounds impressive, but gets fewer website visitors than your mum's Facebook page. Pay £1,000, you'll get into an online-only section of a mid-tier publication nobody actually reads. Pay £10,000, you might get a tiny mention in Forbes, but it won't be in the print edition, and nobody outside of other LinkedIn gurus will care. The people who get real press, they either have a genuinely newsworthy story, or they have a very good PR team that works real connections. But the average entrepreneur paying for media features, they're just buying a badge to impress other people who don't know better. How to actually get media attention without looking like a clown. If you're still desperate for media coverage, fine, but at least do it the right way. Actually have a story. Journalists don't care about entrepreneur launches coaching program. They care about unique, weird, dramatic, or unexpected stories. Don't just pitch yourself, pitch an idea. Here's why Gen Z is quitting traditional jobs is a better pitch than "I'm great, write about me." Network with journalists before you need them. PR is like dating. You can't just show up out of nowhere and say, "Hey, feature me." Build relationships. Understand that media is a credibility boost, not a business strategy. If your product sucks, no amount of press will save you. Stop paying for clout. It won't make you rich. Here's the real takeaway. You don't need media features to be successful. If you have a great product, solid marketing, and an actual business model, you'll make money with or without a Forbes badge. But if you're out here paying for credibility instead of earning it, you're just burning money for a false sense of success. So, next time you see someone flexing as seen in Business Insider, just remember, they probably paid some guy like me to put it there. 7. If you're not pissing someone off, you're probably irrelevant. Only 2 things are infinite: the universe and human stupidity, and I'm not sure about the former. Albert Einstein. Somewhere along the way, we all got tricked into thinking that success means being universally loved. That if you just play nice, keep your head down, and never ruffle any feathers, you'll wake up one day in a mansion with a private chef and a driveway so long it needs its own postcode. That's a lie. And not just a little white one, like when your mate says, "Yeah, I'll be there in 5 minutes," when he's still in the shower. No, This is a full-blown, industrial-strength deception wrapped up in a pastel-coloured motivational quote and force-fed to the masses. The reality check nobody ordered. Here's the truth. If you're doing anything worth a damn, someone, somewhere, is going to be annoyed by it. That's not a sign of failure, it's proof you're making an impact. You think revolutionaries, industry titans, and disruptors got where they are by playing it safe? Nah. They got there by making people deeply uncomfortable, by poking sacred cows, upending traditions, and generally being the human equivalent of a wasp at a picnic. I learned this the hard way when I started my first business. I thought I was going to be this universally adored entrepreneur, shaking hands, kissing babies, getting free drinks in pubs because people just loved what I was doing. The reality? I got more dirty looks than a vegan at a barbecue festival. I remember the first time a customer absolutely lost their mind at me. It was over something stupid, like a missing 10% discount on their bill. The bloke acted like I personally took out a mortgage in his name and then ran off to the Bahamas. He left a review so scathing I thought I'd need a priest instead of a PR team. At first, I took it personally. But then I realized something. This guy was just mad because I had built something that mattered enough for him to care. If I had some bland, soulless business, he wouldn't have wasted his breath. Nice is forgettable. Bold is unstoppable. Let's talk about the nice businesses, the ones that try to please everyone, the ones that are so afraid of controversy they water themselves down into a flavourless corporate soup. You know the type? They use phrases like, "We just want to provide great service for everyone. We're passionate about innovation and synergy. Your success is our success. Blah, blah, blah." Nobody remembers these businesses because they stand for absolutely nothing. They sit in the middle of the road, desperately hoping to be inoffensive, not realizing that the middle of the road is exactly where people get run over. Meanwhile, the businesses that actually succeed are the ones that stand for something, even if it makes some people uncomfortable. Especially if it makes some people uncomfortable. Exhibit A. Ryanair, the petty king of the skies. Nobody loves Ryanair. The CEO, Michael O'Leary, is essentially a real-life Bond villain. This is a man who once suggested charging people to use the toilet on flights because he could. And yet, Ryanair is wildly profitable. Why? Because they don't care if you like them. They care that you need them. You want a cheap flight to Spain? Cool. Pay £20, sit next to a crying baby, and be grateful your ticket even includes oxygen. Complain all you want, you're still booking with them again next summer. I once flew Ryanair and the seat was so tight I felt like I had to inhale just to fit in it. It was like being vacuum sealed into a Pringles can. And yet, guess what? I still booked with them again because they're cheap, they're everywhere, and they're bloody efficient. O'Leary doesn't waste time trying to make you feel warm and fuzzy inside. He just makes damn sure you can't ignore him. Exhibit B. Kanye West, the human controversy generator. Say what you will about Kanye, and people do, but the man knows how to command attention. He is a complete twat. But he doesn't just enter the room. He sets the room on fucking fire, then sells tickets to the blaze. I mean, this is the same guy who grabbed a mic from Taylor Swift mid-award speech and decided right then and there that he was the human embodiment of justice. Was it classy? No. Was it smart? Who knows? But did it make him unforgettable? Absolutely. Is he universally adored? Absolutely not. But when he drops a new album, the entire internet stops to listen. That's the thing about divisive people. Even their biggest haters are paying attention. Haters equals free marketing. The moment someone gets mad about what you're doing, they start talking about you. They complain to their friends, rant on social media, and without realizing it, give you more exposure than any paid ad campaign ever could. People love to say there's no such thing as bad publicity. That's not entirely true and shitty advice. There is such a thing as bad publicity. You just need to be smart enough to profit from it. So how do you embrace the hate without becoming an actual villain? Look, I'm not saying you should go out and be an unbearable asshole just for the sake of it. There's a fine line between being bold and being a liability. The goal isn't to be universally despised, it's to be unignorable. Here's how you do it. Take a stance. Pick a hill and be willing to die on it. The wishy-washy middle is for people who never get remembered. Accept that not everyone will like you, and that's a good thing. If everyone agrees with you, you're probably not saying anything interesting. Double down on what makes you different. Stop trying to fit in. If your business is a little weird, embrace it. If your brand voice is brutally honest, lean into it. That's what makes you stand out. Turn criticism into momentum. When people push back against your ideas, use it as fuel. If your vision is strong enough to make people mad, it's strong enough to make an impact. The world isn't changed by people who tiptoe through life trying not to offend anyone. It's changed by the ones who are willing to take a stand, shake things up, and make some noise. So, next time you find yourself hesitating because you're worried about what people will think, remember this. If nobody's mad, you're probably not doing anything that matters. 8. Hard work is overrated. The art of doing less and winning more. Behind every great man, there is a woman rolling her eyes. Jim Carrey. There was a bloke I knew growing up. We'll call him Terry. Terry was the hardest worker I'd ever seen. The kind of guy who woke up at 5 a.m., ran 6 miles, for no reason, worked 3 jobs, and still somehow found time to mow his neighbour's lawn out of sheer obligation to getting shit done. If there was a brick wall in front of him, he wouldn't walk around it. He wouldn't climb over it. He'd smash his head into it repeatedly until either the wall or his skull cracked first. Terry thought success was just a matter of working harder. But there was one small problem. Terry was broke. Always. Not just struggling a bit broke, but cereal for dinner again broke. He worked himself to the bone, yet somehow the universe rewarded him with nothing but back pain and a used 2003 Vauxhall Astra that smelled permanently of damp. Meanwhile, our mate Gary, who, as far as I could tell, had never experienced a full day of hard work in his life, was driving around in a brand new BMW, living in a house big enough to have rooms he never even used. What was Gary doing that Terry wasn't? Working smart beats working hard. Gary was working smart, while Terry was out there sweating through his shirt, grinding away like a Victorian-era coal miner. Gary had figured out something that separates the winners from the workhorses. Success isn't about working more, it's about working right. And if that offends you, good. That means you've been lied to for years. From the moment we can tie our own shoelaces, we're fed the same nonsense. Hard work always pays off. If you just put in enough hours, you'll be successful. Sleep is for losers. No, it isn't, dipshit. Sleep is for people who don't want to wake up at 45 with the nervous system of a hummingbird and a drinking problem. If working harder guaranteed success, then the bloke sweating bullets in a factory for 14 hours a day would be richer than a bloke who plays golf on a Tuesday afternoon. The people who actually win at business and life are not the ones who simply put in the most effort, they're the ones who leverage their effort correctly. Think about it. A fisherman with the best net catches more fish than the one frantically scooping water with his hands. A chef with one sharp knife will outcook the guy trying to dice onions with a spoon. A businessman with the right strategy will make millions, while Terry is still out there pulling double shifts at a petrol station, wondering why success keeps dodging him like an unpaid bill. The tale of 2 builders. The smart one wins. There were 2 builders in my town, Big Dave and Little Dave. Big Dave was the classic hard work guy. He worked sunrise to sunset, always covered in cement, never took a holiday, and thought the only path to success was breaking his back every single day. Little Dave, on the other hand, was built different. Little Dave didn't work as hard as Big Dave. In fact, if you saw him on a Monday afternoon, there was a 50-50 chance he was in a pub garden, drinking a pint and looking suspiciously relaxed. Yet somehow, Little Dave was making 3 times as much money as Big Dave. How? Because Little Dave figured out how to work smart. Instead of doing all the work himself, he hired a team. Instead of taking every job, he only took the high-paying ones. Instead of spending hours quoting clients individually, he created a standard pricing system and let customers come to him. Big Dave, still out there grinding, too busy to realize he was stuck in a loop. Little Dave, chilling, enjoying life, probably ordering another round. That's the difference between being busy and being successful. Busy does not equal productive. You ever see someone who's always super busy but never seems to actually accomplish anything? Yeah, that's because being busy and being productive are 2 completely different things. Busy people fill their day with pointless tasks to feel like they're working hard. Productive people only focus on the things that actually move the needle. Here's a quiz. Answering 200 emails? Busy. Sending 1 email that lands you a £10,000 contract? Productive. Spending 12 hours tweaking your website fonts? Busy. Launching your product even if the font is slightly off? Productive. Attending every networking event within a 50-mile radius? Busy. Building 1 key relationship with someone who can 10x your business? Productive. See the pattern. How to work smarter, not just harder. If you want to escape the Terry-level trap of working hard and staying broke, here's how. Charge more for your time. If you double your prices, you can work half as much and make the same money. If that scares you, it's because you're undercharging. Stop doing everything yourself. If you're the CEO and the customer service rep, you're the problem. Hire people. Outsource. Delegate. Automate the boring stuff. If you're still manually sending invoices, scheduling calls, or following up with every client one by one, congratulations, you're actively choosing suffering. Quit taking advice from broke people. If someone tells you, just work harder, but they're still struggling, don't listen to them. That's like getting fitness advice from someone who breathes heavy walking upstairs. Create systems that run without you. If your business needs you every single day to function, you don't have a business. You have a job you created for yourself. Terry, bless him, will probably still be out there in 20 years, grinding away, convinced success is just 1 more all-nighter away. But if you've got even a shred of common sense, you'll realize something important. Success isn't about working the hardest, it's about setting up your life so you don't have to. So next time you catch yourself working late for the 100th night in a row, grinding away on some meaningless task, ask yourself, am I actually building something worthwhile, or am I just keeping myself busy so I can feel important? Because the real winners, they're sipping cocktails while the grinders are still out there sweating. 9. Fire your worst customers. Yes, even if they pay well. Why do people say no offense right before they're about to offend you? Unknown. There was a bloke I worked with once. Let's call him Greg. On paper, Greg was the dream client. Big budget, repeat business, always throwing new projects my way. But in reality, Greg was a fucking nightmare. A twat and the grand wizard of bell ends. This was the kind of guy who'd email me at 11 p.m. with urgent in the subject line, only for the email to say something mind-numbingly stupid like, "Hey mate, just wondering if we could tweak that shade of blue on page 37? He'd call 5 times a day just to check in, as if I was an on-call doctor and not a freelancer trying to maintain sanity. He'd haggle every invoice after we'd already agreed on the price, like he was at some dodgy market stall in Ibiza instead of running a legitimate business. And the worst part, this absolute bin fire of a human would make me redo the work over and over again because he wasn't feeling it, despite not having the faintest clue what he actually wanted. But he paid well, really well. So, like an absolute dickhead, I put up with it. I let this plank of a man walk all over me, thinking the money justified the madness. Until one day, I had an epiphany. Greg wasn't my biggest client. He was my biggest fucking liability. People assume bad clients aren't a problem as long as they're paying. That's like saying a toxic relationship isn't a problem as long as there's free rent involved. A bad client will cost you more than they pay. Every single time. And if you don't believe me, let's break this shit down. They steal your time. And time is money, you fucking moron. The time you waste dealing with their nonsense could be spent on better clients, better projects, or, God forbid, actually living your life. Bad clients think they own you. They take up all your mental space, so even when you're not working, you're thinking about them, and not in a good way. You're lying in bed at 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling, wondering how your life spiraled into this. Meanwhile, a great client pays the same or more and barely needs handholding. Here's the truth. Your best customers are waiting for you, but you're too busy getting skull-fucked by idiots to find them. If you're constantly running around, putting out fires for some walking migraine of a client, you have zero time to find better clients who actually respect you, take on projects that make you want to get out of bed in the morning, scale your business into something that doesn't feel like a glorified hamster wheel. Ever notice that the worst clients are always the ones who leave the most psychotic reviews? You could hand them a perfectly crafted, flawless piece of work and they'd still find something to bitch about. Not quite what I had in mind. Also, I didn't like the tone on your emails. These dickheads are impossible to please. And when they inevitably fail at whatever dumb shit they were trying to do, they'll blame you. Your reputation matters more than their blood money. How to fire a nightmare client without burning your own business to the ground. I get it. Telling a paying client to fuck off is terrifying. But there's a way to do it gracefully. Or, if needed, with pure pettiness. The professional exit. For when you want to stay classy. If you don't want drama, take the polite, firm approach. Hey, client, I've realized we're not the best fit for your needs moving forward, so I'll be wrapping up our work together. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I wish you all the best. Translation, you are a soul-sucking parasite, and I never want to hear from you again. I'm shifting focus to different projects and won't be able to continue working on this. Happy to refer you to someone else who might be a better fit. Translation, I'm dumping you onto some other poor bastard who hasn't learned their lesson yet. The tactical price increase, for when you want to be subtle. Some clients refuse to take a hint, so you price them out. Hey, client, I've restructured my pricing and workload. Moving forward, my rates are increasing to some completely absurd amount per project. One of two things will happen. They'll leave, good. They'll stay and pay you so much that their bullshit becomes tolerable, also good. The petty revenge exit, for when they deserve it. If a client is truly awful and you're feeling particularly spicy, you can burn the bridge in style. Hey, client, I've realized I no longer have the capacity to handle this level of genius. Your project deserves someone who can fully appreciate your incredible ideas. Sadly, that person isn't me. Wishing you and your infinite wisdom all the best. Translation, I hope your next freelancer quits on you mid-project and leaves you crying into your overpriced coffee. Use with caution. What happens when you fire bad clients? Here's the beautiful part. When you cut off the energy vampires, something amazing happens. Your stress disappears overnight. You suddenly have more time for great clients who actually pay and don't make you contemplate arson. You make more money because you're not wasting energy on human dumpster fires. You wonder why you ever put up with them in the first place. And most importantly, you'll finally be running your business on your terms, instead of being held hostage by some raging bellend who thinks an invoice is a fucking negotiation. And if that offends you, good. It means you needed to hear it. 10. We're all imposters. Imposter syndrome is the real fraud. Life's tough, but it's tougher when you're stupid. John Wayne. I remember the first time I got paid a ridiculous amount of money for something I had absolutely no business doing. It was a corporate gig, some fancy marketing project for a company that sold things I didn't understand to people I'd never met. They sent me a contract. I nodded like I knew what I was looking at, signed it, and suddenly I was in charge of something important. There was just one problem. I had no fucking clue what I was doing. Not even a little bit. I spent the first week aggressively Googling things like, what the hell is a conversion rate? And how to not sound stupid in a business meeting. Every time I got an email, I prayed it wouldn't contain a question I couldn't fake my way through. And yet, nobody called me out. Nobody pulled me aside and said, hey mate, we've realized you have the expertise of a confused toddler. You're fired. Instead, the project went great. The company was thrilled. They paid me even more for the next project. That's when I realized nobody really knows what they're doing. We're all just pretending we do. People talk about imposter syndrome like it's some rare disease, like only a few unfortunate souls wake up one day thinking, oh God, what if I'm actually a clueless fraud and everyone finds out? No. Everyone feels like this. The CEO, winging it. The manager, winging it. The industry expert on LinkedIn, copying ideas from someone smarter than them. The business world is a giant game of confidence, and the people at the top are just the ones who figured out how to fake certainty better than everyone else. The only real imposter is the person sitting on the sidelines thinking, I'll start once I feel ready. Because here's the truth. That feeling never fucking comes. Ever sat in a meeting and watched someone talk like they had the entire universe figured out? The kind of person who drops buzzwords with confidence, makes grand claims, and acts like they've cracked the code of life. Well, let me tell you a secret. Half the time, those people are full of shit. I once worked with a guy, let's call him Dave, who was the most confident speaker I'd ever met. Did he know what he was talking about? Absolutely not. He would throw out phrases like, we need to synergize our vertical integration strategy, and this is about scalable consumer alignment. And people would just nod. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there thinking, what the fuck did he just say? But here's the thing. Nobody ever questioned him, because he spoke like he knew what he was doing, so people assumed he did. That's when it hit me. The business world isn't about knowing everything. It's about knowing how to look like you do. Society has spent decades convincing us that some people are just naturally more qualified than others, that there's a magical group of real professionals who earn their spot at the table through sheer intelligence and skill. But let's be honest, we all know people in high positions who are absolute fucking morons. That boss who barely knows how to use email but gets paid 6 figures. That entrepreneur who somehow raised millions despite having the intelligence of a goldfish. That influencer giving life advice even though they peaked in high school. You think these people never felt like frauds? Of course they did. They just pushed forward anyway. And that's the only difference between the people who succeed and the ones who don't. Why the most successful people feel like imposters. There's a reason why the smartest, most capable people are the ones who struggle with imposter syndrome the most. Because the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know. Meanwhile, the most confident idiots on Earth are walking around completely unaware of how clueless they actually are. This is called the Dunning-Kruger effect, the idea that dumb people overestimate their abilities while smart people underestimate theirs. So if you feel like you're not good enough, guess what? That probably means you're actually more competent than half the people out there. Since none of us actually know what we're doing, there's only one logical solution. Stop waiting to feel ready. The people who succeed are the ones who take action before they feel qualified. Act like you belong, even when you don't believe it. Nobody can tell the difference between confidence and blind optimism. Use that to your advantage. Remind yourself that everyone is winging it. Your boss, winging it. The industry leaders, winging it. The guy on LinkedIn talking about leveraging synergy, super winging it. Say yes, then figure it out later. Every big opportunity will feel too big at first. The key is to say yes anyway, then learn as you go. The only real fraud is the one who never tries. A few years ago, I was sitting in a meeting with some seriously high-level executives, the kind of people who get paid stupid amounts of money and own suits that cost more than my car. They started discussing some complicated financial strategy, and within 5 minutes I realized I have no fucking idea what these people are talking about. Panic set in. What if they ask me a question? What if they realize I shouldn't even be in this room? What if I get exposed as an imposter? Then I looked around the table and noticed something. Half of them looked just as confused as I felt. But you know what they were doing? Nodding, smiling, pretending they understood. That's when I knew I wasn't the fraud. The whole system is a fucking fraud. The people at the top aren't the ones who earned it through some special divine knowledge. They're the ones who kept showing up, even when they felt like they didn't belong. And that's all you have to do. Feeling like an imposter is not a sign that you don't belong. It's a sign that you're growing, pushing into new territory, and doing something that actually fucking matters. The real frauds, they're the ones sitting on the sidelines, waiting for permission to start. So next time your brain whispers, "You're not good enough," remind yourself, nobody is. We're all just winging it, and the ones who win, they're the ones who embrace the chaos and do it anyway. 11. The hierarchy of ideas is bullshit. Good ideas don't need permission. A bank is a place that will lend you money if you can prove that you don't need it. Bob Hope. I once had a bloke tell me, with absolute confidence, that great ideas rise to the top. He said it like it was some kind of universal law, like gravity, or the fact that Greg from accounting will always eat your lunch if you leave it in the fridge. I nodded politely, but inside I was screaming, "That's complete nonsense." Because if that were true, we wouldn't have a world where the Baby Shark song made millions while actual creative geniuses die in obscurity. The truth, good ideas don't automatically rise to the top. Bad ideas don't automatically get buried. And the so-called hierarchy of ideas, the belief that the best concepts will naturally win, is just another boardroom fairy tale. The people in charge don't know what's good. If great ideas naturally succeeded, then explain this. Blockbuster laughed Netflix out of the room when they pitched their streaming idea. Publishers rejected Harry Potter because they thought kids won't read a long book. Every great musician, writer, or artist struggled for years because some executive couldn't recognize talent if it slapped them in the face. Meanwhile, reality TV still exists. Every movie studio is remaking things from the 90s. Some idiot made millions by selling pet rocks. If success was just about quality, we'd all be watching original, innovative films instead of yet another Fast and Furious sequel where Vin Diesel growls about family. But we're not. because the people who decide what gets seen, funded, or distributed are just guessing like the rest of us. So, if you're sitting on a brilliant idea, thinking, I just need the right people to recognize its genius, forget it. The only way an idea succeeds is if you make it succeed. Hierarchy? What hierarchy? People love to act like there's some structured pyramid of ideas, where the best concepts naturally climb their way to the top, while bad ones get filtered out. But the real world doesn't work like that. The real hierarchy looks more like this. The loudest idea wins. Doesn't matter if it's good. If it's everywhere, people assume it must be worth something. The best packaged idea wins. You could have the most groundbreaking concept in history, but if you present it like a high school PowerPoint, nobody cares. Meanwhile, some guy who can barely tie his own shoes is out there raising millions because his pitch deck looks sexy. The first idea wins. Doesn't matter if it's original, just matters if you were first to claim it. Ask MySpace how it feels to have invented social media only to watch Facebook steal its lunch. The most persistent idea wins. If you keep showing up, people eventually just accept that you belong. That's why some businesses survive, not because they're the best, but because they just refuse to die. Nowhere in this structure is there a level that says the most brilliant idea automatically wins, because it doesn't. Ideas don't compete on merit. They compete on who pushes them the hardest. The dumbest things that have risen to the top. If the best ideas always won, we wouldn't have half the nonsense we do today. Some truly ridiculous ideas have made people obscene amounts of money, while actually useful, meaningful, or creative ideas sit in a dusty notebook somewhere. Let's take a look at a few of history's biggest offenders. The Snuggie, a backwards robe. That's it. Someone took a dressing gown, flipped it around, and made over $500 million. Fidget spinners. Solved exactly 0 problems. Made millions. Bottled water. Someone convinced us that the literal free thing from the tap should be $1 billion industry. NFTs of monkeys. People spent 6 figures on JPEGs of apes that now sell for less than a cup of coffee. Pumpkin spice everything. Not an idea, just a flavor, and yet somehow it has its own cultural season. These things didn't win because they were brilliant. They won because someone pushed them hard enough until they caught on. Meanwhile, how many actually life-changing inventions have struggled because nobody marketed them properly? There are medical breakthroughs languishing in obscurity because the people behind them thought the world would just naturally recognize their value. That's not how it works. If you've got an idea you believe in, you have 2 choices. Wait for the right people to notice it. Spoiler, they won't. Shove it down the world's throat until they have no choice but to notice it. The people who succeed aren't waiting to be picked. They're hacking the system. How to make your idea unstoppable. 1. Be loud, even if it feels uncomfortable. Most people fail not because their ideas are bad, but because they don't make enough noise. If you're not actively shoving your idea in front of people, someone with a worse idea will. 2. Package it like it's worth $1 billion. The reason bad ideas succeed is because they're sold like they're the greatest thing ever. People aren't buying the idea, they're buying the way it's presented. If your idea is brilliant but looks boring, messy, or unprofessional, it will lose to something dumber that's marketed better. 3. Repeat yourself until it sticks. Most people give up after a few attempts. The ones who win hammer their message home until people finally listen. Your first launch won't make you a millionaire. Your second might not either. But your 10th? Your 20th? That's when people start paying attention. 4. Accept that meritocracy is a myth and play the game accordingly. This is the hardest one to swallow. If you're sitting around thinking, if my idea is good enough, it'll naturally succeed, you're already losing. Because the people who win aren't the ones with the best ideas. They're the ones who understand the game and play it better than anyone else. Your idea is only as powerful as your ability to sell it. The hierarchy of ideas is a fantasy. Great ideas don't win because they're great. They win because someone made them unavoidable. If you're waiting for the right moment or someone important to validate you, you're wasting time. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You don't need some imaginary system to approve your idea. You just need to push it harder than everyone else. So, if you're sitting on something brilliant, wondering, but why hasn't this taken off yet? The answer is simple. Because you haven't shoved it in the world's face enough yet. Now go do that. 12. Fuck your creative toolbox. Just get to work. An intellectual is someone who has found something more interesting than sex. Aldous Huxley. Somewhere along the way, some well-meaning but ultimately useless bastard convinced creative people they need a toolbox. Not an actual one, mind you. Not one filled with hammers and spanners that could help you build a shed or break into your ex's house for closure. No, we're talking about the wanky, metaphorical creative toolbox, a collection of rituals, overpriced software, and productivity hacks that people love to wank on about but never actually use. You've probably heard this horseshit before. You need the right tools to do your best work. Find your creative process and stick to it. Optimize your workspace for maximum inspiration. Make sure you're in the right headspace. Oh yeah? Tell that to the guy making 6 figures on YouTube filming on a potato. Or the writer smashing out a bestseller, me, on a laptop older than Jesus. Meanwhile, you're lighting incense and tweaking your desk feng shui, waiting for the universe to grant you permission to start. Newsflash. While you're polishing your process, some talentless fuck with no self-doubt is already publishing, making money, and winning. The only tool you need, the ability to fucking start. There's this idea that creativity is a delicate little flower, that you need the perfect conditions for it to bloom, like it's some mystical unicorn that'll bolt if your tea isn't the right shade of beige. Let's call that out for the absolute bollocks it is. I can't create until I'm in the right mood. Cool. Do plumbers say this? Do surgeons? Imagine your doctor walking into surgery like, nah, mate, just not vibing with this tumour removal today. I need my special tools and workspace. Oh, do you? You need your overpriced moleskin and your lo-fi beats playlist to feel inspired. Grow up. J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter on fucking napkins. The best rap albums were recorded in basements with a mic that probably smelled like disappointment. No one gives a shit about your fancy tools, least of all the audience. I need more time to develop my idea. No, you need a fucking deadline, you fucktard. You need pressure. You need to be backed into a corner so you finally do something instead of sitting around stroking your potential like it's a prize-winning dog. I need to refine my skills first. Oh, so you're just going to keep practicing while less talented people pass you by, cashing in on their shit but finished work? Sounds like a solid life plan. You know what the only real creative process is. Get work. Let me tell you about a guy I knew. Let's call him Alan. Oh, Alan was a tool, all right, a complete spanner of a man who wanted to write a book. He spent 3 years preparing. Took a dozen online writing courses, read every book on storytelling like he was preparing for a TED Talk, tested every writing app because Scrivener just feels more professional than Google Docs. Outlined, then re-outlined, then re-outlined his story. Meanwhile, another guy, let's call him Smelfy, just sat down and started typing. Smelfy had no plan, no Scrivener. His first draft was probably a steaming pile of shite. But guess what? By the time Alan was still arsing around with fonts, Smelfy had published his first book, and he was making money while Alan was still Googling how to start writing a novel. Talent versus action. Guess which one wins. People love talking about talent like it's some divine gift that separates the greats from the rest of us. Oh, they're just naturally gifted. I wish I had their creativity. Some people are born with it. Utter fucking nonsense. You know what talent without action gets you? Fuck all. You know what action without talent gets you? A career, an audience, and a bank account that doesn't make you cry. The people who win are the ones consistently putting out work, even if it's cringy, even if it's messy, even if it's not their best. Because every time they do, they get better. Meanwhile, the talented ones are still perfecting their process and waiting for their big moment that never comes. Perfectionism is just fear in a fancy outfit. People act like perfectionism is some noble trait. Oh, I just want it to be perfect. No, you just don't want to fail. Perfectionism is just fear with a Gucci belt on. If you never finish, you never get judged. If you never publish, you never fail. It's a self-preservation tactic for people too scared to be bad before they get good. How to actually create without the bullshit. Kill your creative rituals. Burn the candles, smash the routines. If you need the perfect setting to work, you're fucked. Great work happens in chaos, on bad days, in stolen moments. Set a stupidly simple goal. Not write a novel, not launch a business, not build a brand. Instead, write 500 words today. Post one thing, even if it's shit. Create something in 30 minutes and hit publish. Lower the bar until it's impossible to trip over. Finish before you think you're ready. Your work will never feel perfect. Your first draft will be bad. Your first attempt will be awkward. Publish anyway. Adjust later. Embrace the cringe. You will cringe at your early work. That's good. It means you're progressing. If you're not cringing at something you made 6 months ago, you're not making enough. Except that nobody cares. So just do it anyway. You think people are watching, judging, waiting for you to fail? They're not. They're too busy worrying about their own shit. Which means you're free. Free to experiment, free to fuck up, free to create without fear. Just start. Just do. Just finish. The biggest lie about creativity is that you need to prepare for it. You don't. You just need to start. No toolbox, no process, no waiting for inspiration. The people who win aren't the most talented, the most prepared, or the most inspired. They're the ones who show up, do the work, and keep doing it until it pays off. So next time you catch yourself faffing about with your creative toolbox, stop. And just fucking create. 13. Won the argument, lost the sale. Some people are just fucking idiots. Never argue with stupid people. They will drag you down to their level and then beat you with experience. Mark Twain. There's a special kind of business person out there who thinks their job is to win arguments instead of making money. You know the type. They get into endless debates with customers about why their product is better. They educate potential buyers on why they're wrong for not seeing the value. They waste entire afternoons crafting the perfect response to some bellend on Twitter who isn't even in their target audience. And at the end of all this, they're still broke. Because here's the cold hard truth. Winning an argument doesn't pay your bills. Making a sale does. If you find yourself battling with a potential customer over why they should buy from you, congratulations, you've already lost. I've worked in media, sales, marketing, you name it. I've dealt with every type of lunatic on the planet. Drug-addled maniacs, alcoholics who could barely spell their own name but wanted a content strategy, narcissists who thought they were God's gift to business but couldn't close a deal to save their lives, sociopaths who could sell their own grandma for a LinkedIn endorsement. And through all of that, the worst people were the ones who just had to be right all the time. The man who chased arguments instead of money. I once knew a bloke who ran a marketing agency. Let's call him Pete. Pete was obsessed with proving people wrong. If a client said, "I think social media is a waste of time," he'd launch into a 30-minute TED Talk about why they were stupid. If a business owner told him, "I don't think I need SEO," he'd pull up graphs, data, historical trends, and possibly an interpretive dance to convince them otherwise. He was incredibly smart. He was also incredibly mental. Because every time a prospect pushed back on his pricing, his services, or his strategy, he treated it like a battle to be won, not a deal to be closed. Meanwhile, his competitor, let's call him Danny, was absolutely raking it in. Danny didn't argue. Danny didn't debate. When a client said, "I don't think I need marketing," Danny just said, "Cool, no worries. Let me know when you change your mind." And you know what happened? A few months later, those same clients would come crawling back because they realized Danny was right, on their own terms. Danny never had to win the argument. He just made himself the obvious choice when they were finally ready to pay. Not everyone is meant to be your customer. Read that again. Not everyone is meant to be your customer. There are two types of people you should never waste time arguing with. 1. The know-it-alls, who know nothing. These are the people who come to you for advice and then immediately argue against it. They'll ask for a website, then tell you how they built one on Wix for free. They'll say they need a marketing plan, then insist that word of mouth is all they need. They'll tell you they want premium results, but expect bargain bin pricing. Best response? Let them fail. The market will teach them what you never could. I once had a client, let's call him Colin, who refused to listen. Said he didn't need branding, marketing, or any of that fluffy nonsense. His genius plan: just rely on good energy and manifestation. A year later, he was bankrupt, but hey, at least his chakras were aligned. 2. The broke time wasters. Some people aren't arguing because they don't believe in your product. They're arguing because they can't afford it, and their ego won't let them admit it. You've seen it before. The client who complains about your price but drives a brand new BMW. The one who says, "That's too expensive," while holding a £5 coffee they buy every single day. The guy who tells you he'll think about it while actively bleeding money on things that don't matter. They don't need convincing, they need money. And until they have it, nothing you say will change their mind. Most people don't understand that selling isn't about convincing, it's about positioning. When you argue, you're desperately trying to pull someone towards your point of view. When you sell, you position yourself, so they come to you when they're ready. People don't buy from people who make them feel stupid. They buy from people who make them feel understood. Arguing sounds like this. "No, you don't understand. This is the best solution, and here's why. If you just did your research, you'd see that I'm right. But this is how professionals do it. You're making a huge mistake." Selling sounds like this. "No worries. My clients know the value. If it's not for you, that's cool." Sounds like you're looking for something different. No problem. Let me know when you're ready. I work with people who get it. The moment you stop chasing, convincing, and debating, you instantly become more valuable. Because people don't trust desperate. They trust confidence. Shut up and sell. If you ever catch yourself going back and forth with someone, trying to prove you're right, ask yourself, do I want to win the argument, or do I want to win the sale? Because the moment you find yourself debating a broke, clueless, or stubborn prospect, you've already lost. Stop trying to save people who don't want to be saved. Stop arguing with people who aren't even paying you. Stop wasting energy on proving your worth to people who can't afford it anyway. The best business people aren't the ones who know how to argue. They're the ones who know when to walk away. So, next time someone tries to pull you into a debate about why your price is too high or your service isn't necessary, smile, say, cool, walk away. Because if they're not ready to buy today, they'll be back when reality proves you right. 14. Final thought. You are never meant to win the game, so rig it. If you find yourself in a fair fight, your strategy sucks. John Steinbeck. If you've made it this far, congratulations. You've either gained life-changing business wisdom or have been hate-reading this whole time, shaking your head, muttering, "This guy's an absolute lunatic." Either way, you stuck around, which is more than most people can say about their business ideas. That means, on some level, you know there's truth in all of this, no matter how brutally I've delivered it. Now comes the part where I tie it all together, where I reveal the biggest truth about success that every billionaire already knows, but nobody wants to admit. You ready? Here it is. The system was never designed for you to win. Not business, not life, not success in general. It's all one big, rigged game. And the people at the top aren't there because they followed the rules. They're there because they found the loopholes and exploited them mercilessly. They're not smarter than you. They're not even necessarily more talented. They just understand the one rule that actually matters. If you want to win, you have to play the game on your own terms. By now, we've covered just about every brutal truth they don't teach you in business school, which is good, because business school is mostly a scam designed to keep you in debt, not make you rich. First, we learned that being liked is optional, but being respected is mandatory. People pleasers finish last. The people who win in business aren't the nicest, they're the ones who command respect. Steve Jobs made his employees cry on a weekly basis and still built a trillion-dollar company. Meanwhile, your mate who just wants to be nice to everyone? Yeah, he's still handing out business cards nobody asked for at networking events. Then we tackle the idea that if nobody hates you, you're probably irrelevant. If your business, your ideas, or your brand don't piss someone off, you're playing it too safe. Playing it safe is just another way of saying forgotten. Meanwhile, the brands and individuals who lean into controversy, who stand for something, who refuse to water themselves down, those are the ones we remember. We also called out the hard work scam, the idea that grinding 80-hour weeks is the key to success. It's not. The busiest people are usually the brokest. You don't get rich by working every hour of the day. You get rich by finding a way to make money without working every hour of the day. The myth of hustle culture is just that, a myth, designed to keep you exhausted while the people pushing it make passive income off your suffering. And what about imposter syndrome? It's the real fraud. Everyone is making it up as they go along. There are no qualified people, just those who started before they felt ready. Meanwhile, the ones who spend years preparing never actually launch anything. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't, the successful ones took action before they felt worthy of it. We also exposed the hierarchy of ideas as pure nonsense. Good ideas don't naturally rise to the top. If they did, we wouldn't have fidget spinners, reality TV, or 15 Fast and Furious movies. The truth is, the best marketed idea wins, not the best one. Your genius won't be discovered. You have to shove it in the world's face and make them pay attention. And let's not forget about the creative process scam. Fuck your creative toolbox. You don't need a perfect workspace, a special playlist, or a ritualistic morning routine. You just need to sit down and do the work. If your ability to create hinges on whether or not your oat milk latte was made correctly, you've already lost. Then we tackled one of the biggest mistakes business owners make, winning the argument but losing the sale. Some people aren't buying, not because they don't believe in you, but because they're idiots, broke, or both. If you find yourself debating someone about why they should hire you, you've already lost. Let the market humble them and come back when they're ready to pay. So where does that leave us? If there's one thing you should take away from this book, it's this. The biggest lie in business is that there's a special group of people who deserve success because they're smarter, more talented, or more prepared. That's absolute nonsense. If you've ever worked for a company, you already know this. You've seen senior managers who couldn't organize a sandwich order somehow running entire departments. The truth is, the most confident person in the room gets the job, even if they have no idea what they're doing. The loudest business gets customers, not the best one. The person who markets garbage better will outsell the genius who sits quietly in the corner waiting to be discovered. This isn't cynicism. This is pulling back the curtain on reality. Success, business, and money, it's all a game. And the people who win aren't the ones playing fair. So, what's the answer? How do you actually win? If the system is rigged, if talent is overrated, and if working harder isn't the answer, then what the hell are you supposed to do? Simple. Stop waiting for permission. Nobody is coming to hand you a golden ticket. You have to take what you want. That means launching before you feel ready, selling before you feel like an expert, and taking action while everyone else is overthinking. Charge more and work less. Poor people think, I'll work harder to make more money. Rich people think, I'll charge more so I don't have to work harder. One of these strategies keeps you in the rat race. The other gets you a life. Stop trying to convert the unconvertible. Some people aren't your customers. Stop arguing with them. Stop trying to prove your value to people who will never pay you. Let them fail on their own. Be so undeniable that people have no choice but to pay attention. If your business is struggling, you don't have a product problem. You have an attention problem. Get louder. Be everywhere. Market like a lunatic. Embrace the chaos. Nobody knows what they're doing. If you've been waiting to feel legit before taking your shot, stop. The only way to feel like an expert is to start acting like one. The final thought. Be the one who takes action. At the end of the day, there are two types of people in business. There are the ones who sit around waiting for the right time, arguing in Facebook groups, tweaking their logo for the 500th time, and reading books about success while never actually doing anything. And then there are the ones who say, fuck it, I'll figure it out as I go, and actually take action. Guess which ones get rich? Hint, it's not the ones still refining their business plan for the 5th year in a row. So, if you take nothing else from this book, take this. Success isn't reserved for the smartest, most talented, or most deserving. It's reserved for the ones who decide they're going to win, then act accordingly. Now go out there and rig the damn game in your favor. You have been listening to Why Hard Work is Overrated by Alfie Brown, narrated by Christopher Tester. Copyright Alfie Brown, 2025.